everybody, and welcome back to Blue Jays Today. We're your boys. We always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Adam Peddle.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Blaylock, and we are once again talking about Juan Soto. I know it's triggering. We want to bury our heads in the sand. We want to forget what happened last year because everybody remembers how much we got hurt with the Shohei Ohtani stuff, and it's very likely that the same thing's going to happen with Juan Soto. But all of that being said, there are some new updates about the situation involving the Toronto Blue Jays, which I guess could be a sign for optimism, but if you're a cynic, then it could just be leading into the pre-existing narrative that you already have. We're going to break down all of that and more in this one, everyone. Before we do, please make sure to hit the like, smash the subscribe button, and comment your thoughts about this entire situation down below. So, Juan Soto is obviously a long shot, right? I mean, probably longer of a shot than Shohei Ohtani was, but that's not stopping the Toronto Blue Jays from still shooting said shot.
Yeah, we've already had reports that Juan Soto, he's obviously being targeted by the Toronto Blue Jays, and they were going to go, quote, all out for him, and looks like the actions are starting to come. It's not just the words anymore. The actions are starting to come into play. Jeff Passan came out with an article from ESPN, and Jeff Passan, from our experience, is one of the most reliable industry sources out there. You know, when he says something, it's usually pretty concrete. And he came out with an article that did say that the Toronto Blue Jays are actually going to be meeting with Juan Soto, and not only meeting with him, but they're going to be meeting with him first against any other team. So here's the quote right here. Soto is starting to take meetings with teams in California this week, and the Toronto Blue Jays will be first, according to Major League sources. He goes on to say, after trying to land Shohei Ohtani last winter, the Blue Jays are serious about adding a star alongside Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And have targeted Soto. So, with that being said, there's a few things that come to my mind when I first hear that we're meeting with him first. I first think, hey, you know what? Good on you, Ross Atkins. Good on you, front office, for getting in the door first and putting your claim and putting your contract offer out on the table, whatever it is that might be in this going on in this first initial meetings. But then the other part of me goes, well, is this Scott Boras' strategy to bring in an aggressive suitor like the Toronto Blue Jays to name the price for Juan Soto? What do you think?
I think yes and yes, right? Like, from our standpoint, we don't want Ross Atkins to get caught up in all this because we saw what happened last year where it was like he got caught up in the whole Shohei Ohtani thing, and I get it. That is a very special generational player, maybe the best of all time, right? But they forgot about everybody else, and then you ended up in a situation where it was, the new year was coming, and we didn't have anybody signed to a contract, and it was Kevin Kiermaier and IKF. We've been down that road before. We don't want him to get caught up here, especially when you got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on a contract year, right? There are some other pressing matters here. We got a bullpen with nobody in it, like literal no names in that thing. So there are other things that need to get tackled here. So if they were going to go all out for Juan Soto, then I do want them to put their offer on the table, say this is where we're at today. Doesn't mean that we can't, adjust as time goes on, but this is where we're at. You go take your other meetings. We're going to fuck off, and we're going to deal with the problems that we currently have on our ball team. So I like that from a Toronto Blue Jays management standpoint. However, on the flip side of things, let me ask you this. We're big fantasy guys. I mean, some of you guys have even played fantasy baseball with us before. We're in the fantasy football season right now. When you are making a sale to somebody, or when you're buying an asset from somebody, I like to be the last guy to the table. So then I know what everybody else has already offered. So then it's like, okay, well, if they're offering you a first-round pick for that guy, and this guy's offering you this, well, now I know what I need to do to just go a little bit above and beyond. So from a New York Mets and a Yankees standpoint, getting to meet after the fact, and from a Scott Boras standpoint, getting to set the market, it feels like this is all kind of working together so that they can eventually emerge on top, just going a little bit over the top with what the Toronto Blue Jays might do.
Yeah, I mean, that is probably what Scott Boras is doing here. Let's not be unrealistic here. We all know the Blue Jays are very aggressive and willing to put anything out there. Well, you're speaking of fantasy football. It's like if I'm desperate right now, and the Toronto Blue Jays are absolutely desperate to try and get this team back into contention, I am going to come into the room first and put out my big boy offer and say, hey, look, I'm willing to go all balls out here. I'm willing to offer you this, this, and this. For the Toronto Blue Jays standpoint, I'm willing to offer you 630 or whatever it might be for 14 years. So for the Toronto Blue Jays standpoint, I like what they're doing where, yeah, we are in a desperate need. Plus, also, Blue Jays operate different than, Steve Cohen and Hal Steinbrenner from the New York Yankees and New York Mets, where they are owned by their own fandom, right? Like they can go up because they have money on themselves where if they want to go and win, they can go up the price even more. Whereas on the Toronto Blue Jays standpoint, you're dealing with a whole organization and Rogers Communication Company that needs to go through many levels of approval and a team collective collaboration effort to get this budget approved. They probably already had discussions about Juan Soto's budget, and I hope to God they went, okay, well, here's our initial offer, here's our secondary offer, and then after that, we're out of here. So I hope that Ross Atkins does come to the table, offers it right away, and then gets out of there, right?
See, I think that coming to the table first makes sense and it works if you can raise the eyebrows of Scott Boras and Juan Soto when you get there. Like if you walk in there and you say, here's $590 million. That's not gonna move the needle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, they expect you to do that, and if you give them what they expect, they're not going to take you very seriously because I don't think that they're actually taking you very seriously right now. For them, it is the Mets and it is the Yankees. Now they're giving you an opportunity to sell Juan Soto on your ball team, but the biggest thing that's going to put it over the top and just show him how serious you are is if you raise the eyebrows and you immediately walk in and you say, "Here's 650." This is where we're starting.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's got to be one of those things where they do go above and beyond and then it's oh, the Toronto Blue Jays are in the mix. We weren't even really thinking about them, but
we were hoping that they would offer this so that we could then go to Hal and Scott and get a bigger offer.
Exactly, right. And then when you do that, then it's Hal and Scott are oh, this is where we're at right now. You know, it's got to be one of those situations if they're actually going to end up with them. But ultimately, folks, this is a great update for me, and I love it. I'm still very much in the camp that this is going to end with us, finishing a strong third place and, probably being used as leverage overall.
Yeah, I feel like that is where it is too. But while we're here, why don't we just go down the fantasy realm a little bit? Okay, what does Ross Atkins need to do if Ross Atkins, of course, is going to be in the room with Scott Boras and Juan Soto? What does he need to do to actually pitch the Toronto Blue Jays? Because we've heard reports, we broke this down on Bad for Baseball, where Juan Soto is looking for a ownership to promise winning in the time that he will be on that team. And, he's going to be on the team for 10 to 14 to 15. I've even heard reports he'll be over 14 years, 15, 16 years, that kind of guarantee. What does Ross Atkins need to do to promise that he's going to do this? Is it just financial, or what do we need to do after the fact that we get Juan Soto?
Well, I do think that the initial thing is a financial thing, like I just said, right? When you're entering the table, I don't think that they think you are very serious. And I think that Juan Soto and his camp are looking at you as just a little pawn in this entire formula of how we get $700 million. And they're ultimately going to be using you for other guys to pay that money. So you got to immediately assert your dominance by showing an offer that they didn't expect you to show. And that will come from a monetary standpoint. On top of all of that, I do think that Guerrero is a big part of it. In Jeff Passan's article, he brings up the fact that Toronto Blue Jays are looking to have another superstar to pair with Vladdy, which is true, right? We were thinking for a long period of time that was going to be Bo Bichette, but based on last year and, kind of the comments that he was making about the future of the team and everything like that, that's a bit up in the air. Juan Soto's a sure thing. We know exactly what we're going to be getting out of Juan Soto. He's even better than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Sure. That right there makes a lot of sense to me. But if you're going to sell him on that, then you got to show how you're going to extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Even if you don't have him already extended, you have to make it very clear that, this is the plan. This is when we're going to do it by. We've already had the preliminary meetings with Guerrero. We're getting close. All that shit needs to be very clear. And then after that, it comes kind of the tertiary things, right? Because now you have your core. This is what it's going to be. But then we also need to hear about, how are we going to be good next year? And then, also, too, how are we going to market you? How are we going to endorse you? How are we going to support you outside of just on the baseball field, right? There's a bunch of different things that you can sell him on.
Right, and I think too, a lot of fans go, wow, like signing Juan Soto and extending Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you're looking at $80 to $90 million committed per year to two guys, right? And you might look at this upcoming year and you go, wow, like that goes a majority of our budget, right? I mean, yes, there's maybe some marketing things you could do to get a little bit more, finances coming back your way with a Juan Soto and a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. pairing for sure. But I think that's a lot of money off the table. However, you could look at it in the long term. You could be selling them, well, this year we're going to lock you boys down long term. Absolutely, this is what we got. And then after that, it's, well, we got 14 years with both of you guys. Let's continue to add on these other pieces as we go on and get this new window created, and this is how we're going to do it. You got to sell them on the long-term vision too, and not just next year as well. So that's going to be a key for me as well. If you're going in and talking to them, you need to sell them on everything down the line.
Yeah, of course. And, I do want to be very clear. I tweeted this out on, not tweeted out, but I guess posted out. I don't know what it's called.
I don't know.
Follow us on Blue Sky, everybody. We just created an account on there, guys. It's just Blue Jays Today. But they know how to enter these meetings because the Toronto Blue Jays management, when it comes to being used as leverage, they are elite, everybody. They show up. The difference this year is can you learn from what happened last year with Shohei Ohtani, and can you find out a way to not have that happen again? I still think no. Do you think no still?
Whoa, time for a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video. Hit your picks and knock it out of the park with Betway. Scan the QR code down below to join the action. Only available in Ontario. Must be 19 years of older to participate. Please play responsibly. Now everyone, back to the content.
Well, I see, here's the thing. Like, if Shohei Ohtani never happened, I would be kind of more on board with the idea, right? If we just forgot that it happened, like, yeah, sure, it's New York Mets and New York Yankees in on it, but I would still think the Blue Jays got a legitimate shot because of, how aggressive we have been being. That being said, like, going into this season, maybe even because of Ohtani, maybe I do think even more so that we will go hard on him because we don't want a repeat of last year. So I am leaning into the reality where I'm allowing myself to think of it as a realistic possibility and removing all the emotions of last year and allowing myself to see it play out. Am I counting that we're going to get him? Absolutely not. I don't think that's smart for anyone. Like, I mean, we're in on a bunch of other guys this free agency, and I'm not counting that we're going to get those guys either. But I'm not allowing myself to completely say, no, this will never happen because of my personal experiences dealing with this team in the past.
No, okay, I get that, yeah. I mean, like, for me, it's a possibility. I'm not going to hold my breath for it. I am getting more excited about it as time goes on, and, like, I think that maybe it's a little bit more realistic now to me than it was, 24 hours ago or, a week ago or anything like that. But I still think that, like, I don't want to forget what's happening here, which is that it's probably a Steve Cohen and it's probably a Hal Steinbrenner thing, unless, of course, Ross actually cooks. And, like, he's got to go. He's got to do something that he's not, that we haven't seen him do before, and he's got to really fucking cook.
Well, think about it. Ross Atkins and his whole job security thing, like, this is kind of it, right? He didn't get fired.
True.
He didn't get fired this last year, right? If he doesn't go and make something happen, he's done once Vladdy and Bo leave this team and we go on to lose again, you're gone too, right? That just makes sense. So in order for him to keep his job here, he's got to go make a move. So he's got a lot on the line.
No, that's very fair, right? I mean, you don't want to get embarrassed twice in a row. We were talking about that. And I mean, like, if you're going to be going all in for it, like, you got to cross the finish line because of, how everybody's going to look at you as an organization. Then also, too, yeah, it's a good point, like the job security. I mean, we've always been talking about how it's like, okay, well, if you can extend Guerrero, well, maybe that gives you a little bit more leeway type thing. But if you can sign Juan Soto, I mean, it's effectively as close to signing a Shohei Ohtani as you can get, right? In modern day baseball. We were talking about how, well, if you can get Shohei Ohtani, like, put a fucking statue up for Ross Atkins.
Yeah, right,
you know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing for Juan Soto. So, yeah, I guess in that standpoint, like, if he's just, like, literally personally motivated in terms of, like, I have to do this for my, like, safety of, paying my rent and food and shit so I can have a job, then yeah, maybe there is a chance.
Maybe there is, guys. So let's keep this on tabs and keep monitoring the situation because, again, like, this is obviously very exciting and big news. But again, what will really be exciting is if we hear afterwards, oh, like, Boras was really impressed by the Blue Jays offer, and they're now one of the top favorites. That, for me, it'd become a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, but that's what he's trying to make you think.
That's what he's trying.
So
that's
then
true.
he can get the leverage. So
and then we're going to go live, and then we're
more.
going to track planes, and here we go again. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below about everything that came out about the Juan Soto news. Please hit that like button and subscribe to Blue Jays Today. $3 a month to become a Patreon member. Shout out thank you to all of our current Patreon members and to our YouTube members as well. You guys are absolutely awesome.
Thanks so much for watching, and as always,
Go Jays, go!